Welcome to the second day of the Swayam Prabha live conferencing of the 11th batch of National Education Policy 2020 Professional Development Program for University and College Teachers. I am Dr. Gloria Kujur, faculty member of STRIDE IGNOU and one of the team members of NEP PDP program. Today we have with us Professor T.K. Jena, Professor and Director, School of Health Sciences, IGNOU. Prior to joining IGNOU, Sir was a senior resident and senior research officer in the research cell of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. He has authored 9 books and published a large number of research journal papers, edited books, and involved in audio-video production, e-resources. He has been involved as a member in committees and has been expert at various national and international levels. He has been involved in the planning and designing of postgraduate programs in the field of health sciences, and apart from this, he has a vast experience in coordinating training of doctors through distance education mode. Sir, we welcome you to today's session on the topic NEP 2020 Continuous Professional Development Skilling Paramedical Staff. May I now request you to kindly deliver your lecture, and within a few seconds we will move to Sir's session.
Thank you. As per the topic allotted today, we will be discussing NEP 2020 and its implication in the skill training of paramedical staff. So, as you know, NEP 2020 is a recent phenomena, and there are a lot of debate going on across the country how to implement it in the educational institutions. And it is also true for the health sector. And today we will focus mainly in the paramedical training in the relation to NEP 2020. So, my presentation will include briefly about NEP 2020, then skilling process, what we understand by this skilling, and then how we can integrate NEP 2020 with the paramedical training. Then the special challenges in the paramedical education if we want to implement NEP 2020, and then I will conclude. Now, the relevant features, you must have read in detail about NEP 2020, but I am touching the relevant features which will be applicable to paramedical training. One important feature is multiple entry and multiple exit. In general colleges, you must have heard now the graduation becoming 4 years. So, every 1 year will lead to one certification. For example, after first year it is a certificate, then it is a diploma, then it is a graduation, and then with the research component you will get a 4-year degree. In health sector, because our duration of training is different, it will be very difficult to make this component. I will discuss more in detail. When you are telling multiple entry, especially in the paramedical training, we know the paramedical word is no more used now. We usually call it allied health. So, in the allied health training or paramedical, for the convenience of this topic, multiple entry will mean there should be a certificate, there should be a diploma, or there should be a 3-year graduation, and there should be a 4-year graduation. But because this is regulated by a council, implementation these issues may be difficult. Similarly, multiple exit. So, we will discuss this more when in challenges come. Modular approach. In modular approach, what it means that okay, you learn one component, then you add another component, like that you come in the cumulative of all the modules will lead to a certification, whether it is degree or diploma. In paramedical training, how it will be implemented, that also we can discuss. Then recognition of prior learning. This is another area where the people who are working, for example, one after 10th pass or 12th pass is working with some doctor or in a hospital without any qualification in the health sector. Now suddenly after 10 years of experience he wants to enroll in some program. Will we count these 10 years of experience? We will give some weightage. Those are the areas which falls under the NEP 2020 jurisdiction, but will it be applicable in the health sector? That is the issue. Technological integration. For example, in a conventional system, whatever the duration of training is, now we are using audio video, we are using even artificial intelligence, we are using virtual lab. So all those things, how it will be applicable in the health sector? In the conventional system, in the medical field, what we do, everything is face to face, whether it is a theory lecture, whether it is a bedside training, whether it is a laboratory training, we want physical presence. Now with the NEP 2020, what we expect, some of this training can be cut short. A student need not be residential for all the whole duration of the training. He can go for the component which is essential for his physical presence. Otherwise, he can do the video, for example, he can see the video at his own residence. He can attend some lectures through the online. But how to integrate that? That is another issue. Multidisciplinary approach. Now, for example, in conventional system, if we teach pediatric, then it is only pediatric. If we teach gynae, it is only gynae. Now, how we can integrate? For example, a paramedical staff, because we are concentrating on paramedical, so I will give paramedical example. He should know how to resuscitate a baby. Simultaneously, he should know what is the need of a mother. So like that, integrating different disciplines, designing curriculum accordingly, that is another challenge. Customized training as per the role. As I discussed just now, whatever the role we expect in the health sector for a allied health person, what training curriculum we can design, a new curriculum design we can make. Nowadays there are nearly 33 recognized graduation in the allied health by the Government of India. In the medical field in abroad, for example in USA, there are nearly 100 areas where allied health services are available. So customized training in India can also look into those areas where the training has not been designed. We can make cut and paste of different roles and we can customize training. Assessment at regular intervals. Usually we assess a student at the end of 1 year or at the end of the diploma, though there are some internal assessments. But in NEP 2020, we visualize no, students should not be burdened by doing examination at the end. Let the examination be done at intervals so that the load on the student as far as the assessment is concerned will minimize and student can concentrate more in the teaching learning process. And in the health sector, NEP 2020 emphasizes the training should be emphasizing more on the prevention of disease. Instead of concentrating on the cure, we should concentrate on the prevention also. So these are the salient features which we will try to apply in the paramedical training or allied health training. Now before going into details, I want to spend some time about the skill itself. When we tell skilling a person, what actually technically it means? What I understand, when we tell I am providing a skill means I am providing a sensory motor coordination. I want to do something, then I am thinking, okay, it should be done in this way. My hand should be trained or tuned to actually do those steps. So that is what is the sensory motor coordination. Whatever I perceive, whether it is through vision, whether it is through audio, or whether it is through some perception, I should be able to translate into motor or the activities. So this coordination has to be tuned in a particular predetermined manner. Now to tune that, what I have to do, I have to repeat this sensory motor coordination activity n number of times, means number of times that will ensure that my coordination is without any fault. I can do that without committing any mistake. For example, repairing a small thing, cycle repairing. I have to do the puncture of a cycle tube. Now I should know these are the steps. How many times I should do this repairing so that I am very much sure I can do it without any assistance. So that is the n number of times, so that the probability of doing without a failure, that means technically we tell repeatability. If my skill is tuned to that extent, the repeatability will be ensured without any fault, then I will tell I am skilled to do that. How to decide that how many times I should do a activity? That n is decided to match the probability of error-free performance desired. To desire a error-free performance, how many times? If it is a very skilled activity, the n or the number of times may be more. For example, giving an injection. How many times one should practice giving an injection? Is it 20 times, 100 times? So that n will decide the type of the skill I am going to train a person. For example, seeing in a microscope, how many microscopy a person should do of a particular blood slide, for example, or for a acid-fast bacillus, then I will tell, okay, he can recognize without any help. That is the n. We have to decide as far as the expert decides that, okay, after doing this many times, there will be an error-free performance. And every procedure will follow a let-down sequencing of the skills. For example, doing a microscopy of Marrellia parasite. This is a task that I am now training a person who can microscopically examine for Marrellia parasite in the blood. Now what will happen? Preparing a slide, I will make n number of times and skill him. Then I will tell, okay, how to put in the how to focus a microscope, that I will skill him. Then I will tell how to take a reading of the slide through the microscope, that I will. So like that, there are few sub skills. So these are the small skills. When I club them in a sequence, I am training them in an activity or a procedure. So every procedure will follow a let down sequencing of these skills. When I do this in a programming, that is what a robot does. When we are training the robotic surgery, what has been done? Every small skill have been programmed. So when I can do this programming in my training process, I tell, okay, I am skilling a person. Through my training process, a person has been skilled. Now, how we learn this skill? Now we told that these are the process. Actually, if you reflect on yourself, we have been skilled. How? We start to observe. Okay, for example, mother is cooking in the kitchen room. We observe how she is cooking. That means I am getting sensitized. Then I want to do, okay, let me also try cooking. That gives me a feeling. I get a feeling. So first I get sensitized to the activity, then I try to get a feeling of that. Then I try to do it. When I do the procedure, I find, okay, there is something I didn't observe properly. So these doubtful steps I have to rectify. So I observe again and I clarify my doubts. Then again I perform. So when I do all the steps correctly, that is the point I am able to perform properly. So the steps, if I put pedagogically, sensitization, then feeling the, get a feeling of the activity, then I understand it, then actually I perform it. Now I am able to perform, for example, cooking. Repetition of observe and do, as I told you, till all the steps are learned. Now I am able to perform. But if I am a slow learner, then what I have to do? I have to accommodate a slow learner, then he has to do these things repeatedly more number of times. That is what I will tell, that repetition of the activities. Then steps of learning followed in the training process. I told how we learn. Now how I translate this learning process or pedagogy to train a person. So when I train a person, what I will do? I will demonstrate. The steps that he was observing, I am demonstrating that. And then to get a feeling of these demonstrated steps, I will tell you do a return demonstration. So technically, when I am a trainer, I will do a demonstration of the procedure, then I will ask for a return demonstration. Then to get a practice steps, what I will do? I will tell you do a practice under a expert, that is supervisory practice. So as a trainer, I will engage an expert, and under that expert, the student will do the practice repeatedly, that is n number of times, as I was telling. Then what I will do? I will tell, because the expert is not available always, a person has to do himself or herself. So for confidence building, the student has to practice himself or herself in an environment where the facility is available. So self practice. If I do the training of the skill, self practice one is able to do. But after going from a medical college, if I tell you do this in a village, he or she may not be able to do that, because we have not trained the person how to do the activity in a resource constrained environment. Therefore, pedagogically, I would like the student to do also the training in a resource constrained environment. And after that, if I want to train that person in the higher skills, then what I will tell, you do this skill, apply this skill in different scenarios or different environments, different situations, different institutions, whatever. So the application of that skill in with a different variations, then he will master that skill. Not only he is able to do mechanically with a confidence of repeatability, but he is able to master that. And once he goes to that mastering level, then he can further go into the skill to invent the concept, why this step is like this, why not in some other way, and why after this step the another step, can we intervene some other step, can we do something else. So these, and what are the conceptual things involved in this skill. So that inventing the concept, maybe at a PhD level that we do, that is also a part of the skill training. So skill training at a mechanical level, at a experimental level, and at a conceptual level will be different. Now, how I will design, I want to skill a paramedical person, how I will design the steps. So first what I will do, I will list the steps of a skill. As I told you, microscope examination of a malaria parasite, then I will tell, okay, he should know how to draw the blood, then he should know how to stain a slide or how to make a blood smear, then how to stain the slide, how to fix it in the microscope, how to examine. So all these steps, every step is a small skill. So list the steps of a skill, and these steps can be listed in a manual, so that when a student actually practices in the laboratory, he can check this list, and that is why we sometimes call it checklist manual. And for every skill, we have to provide a timing. When I am training a person, I have to know how much time we will give for making a slide. Maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so I will make the time provision. So when he will do, for example, 10 times, 10 minutes into 10 into, that means 100 minutes for staining a slide. So that is how I will calculate the credit load. When I design a program, I will calculate what is the credit load for this skill. So how I am going to calculate the credit load? This is the way. List the skills, give timing for every step. Then number of the times, as I told you, maybe there are 5 steps, staining the slide, fixing in the microscope, examining it. For each step there is maybe 10 times, 20 times. Accordingly, the time will be decided, and that will what we will call the implementation plan. This will frame our implementation plan, that I will discuss later on. Now, when I calculate in a course, I have to do, as I told you, demonstration, practice under supervision, self-practice, resource constraint. Now, examining a malaria parasite, that is only one activity. Number to be demonstrated. Should I demonstrate once to the students all the steps within the skill, or should I demonstrate 2 times? So that is the number to be demonstrated. Number to be practiced under an expert, under a lab technician, how many slides he should do. That is the number to be practiced under supervision. How many times he should come to the lab himself and do it. Number of times for self-practice. That is for confidence building. And number of slides in the resource constraint. What is resource constraint? For example, I am training in a medical college. Now he will be posted to a primary health center in a village. So what I will do, as a part of the training, I will tell, no, you have to have a 1 week posting or 2 weeks posting in a village health facility. You have to do so many slides there. That is the number of slides in a resource constraint environment. So when I calculate all this timing, that is the number of time, that is the credit load, and I will make my implementation plan accordingly. And I identify what are the critical steps in this skill training, and I will try make a video clip, because live demonstration and video clip will have a different purpose altogether. In a video clip, a student can play it 5 times, 10 times, see all the steps, but in a live demonstration it will be once or twice, because there is a resource constraint. Now I take further this designing process, list all the skills to be covered. When I design, what I will do, listing of the skills, what is the outcome objective. If I am training a allied health person as a lab technician, for example, what is the outcome objective we are aiming at? That, okay, one objective may be a student should be able to make a slide of his own and examine for malaria parasite. For example, that is one of the objective. Maybe he can examine acid-fast bacillus, like that. So each skill will be listed. If there are 20 skills for the lab technician program, then I will identify how many skills my students must learn, that is mandatory or essential, and those will form the compulsory courses in my program designing. Maybe I will tell, okay, the students should know how to put IV line, intravenous drip. That is not a requirement, mandatory, but if he knows, maybe in the village while taking blood or due to some procedure, a child fainted or something happened, can he put a drip? Then that will be a desirable skill. And those I will put in an optional course. So a student can have compulsory course and optional course. Then there can be some optional skill. That is up to the discretion of the designer, whether he can pick some of the skills from the optional group to this curriculum, or he wants to just have a video and sensitize the students. That is up to that. But as a part of the compulsory and optional course, we have to put only mandatory skills and desirable skills. Then, as I told you in my previous slide, you have to calculate the credit load for all the skills. Then I will make the grouping of the skills. For example, some of the skills you find in one group related to, for example, tuberculosis. These skills are so heavy that it requires one course independently. Maybe for malaria parasite, maybe examination of the stool or examination of urine, these are small courses. Maybe I club them together to make only one course, and each component can become one block or one module. So designing the course will depend in the grouping of the skills. Similar skills can be grouped and they will form the courses. And then how much theory? As I told you, till now I didn't touch the theory part. Now, keeping the entry level of the student in mind, we know how much theory he knows, how much theory he has to know extra. Those additional theoretical knowledge can be planned as a theory material. So that is how you can design a skill-based program. So you will find only 20 to 30% weightage may be for theory, nearly 70 to 80% weightage can go for practical when I am making a skill-based program. and integrate the available technology and other resources, for example, simulation, artificial intelligence, interactive mobile app, multimedia, workshops, skill lab, all those things. As I told you, I am linking with the NEP 2020. So these things we can integrate in the designing process. Now, how I implement? Till now I told you how to design. Now, as a trainer, I have to implement. When I am implementing, I have to decide teacher-student ratio. For demonstration, how many students can be demonstrated in one go? For example, I am demonstrating in a microscope. Then the group has to be small. Maybe 5 to 7 or 10 students maximum can be in a group. But I am demonstrating something which can be for 30 students in the field situation. I am demonstrating that, okay, you see how to examine a patient, maybe a child in a village setting, for example. Then there can be nearly 20-30 students they can demonstrate. But when they are doing it minutely, then the number may be even 2, 1:2, even 1:4. And usually, as a standard practice for paramedical training, we go by 1:5. Then counselor criteria. For example, who will train? For paramedical training, as I am telling you, can a bachelor in MLT teach a DMLT student? Or you want a master in MLT to teach the DMLT student? Or you want a person with a PhD? So, this counselor criteria will depend upon the level of the skill training. If I am training a graduate person, then a minimum a master degree should be there. If I am training a master level person, then at least a PhD holder should be there. If I am training a diploma person, so like that. The level of the counselor will depend on the type of the skill I am going to train. Then where I am going to train? Study center criteria. I have to have so many beds available, so many investigations must be happening every day. Then only my student can get a training. Otherwise, a student will go, there is no investigation in a day. Then what my student will do? It is a wastage of time. Therefore, a minimum criteria has to be there for training center. How many teachers? What is the facility? All those criteria will be there. Then there will be a skill development center. This is an additional point I want to draw attention to my viewers, that in addition to a medical college or a center where training is being done, nowadays government has also included this idea. Like for the doctors, now we want them to go to the district hospital 3 months for training. So this is what the concept IGNOU is practicing for last 30 years. Though this practice now coming into the mainstream, but IGNOU has been practicing this for last 30 years. So this skill development center, where the student gets an opportunity to practice the skill intensively, 1:1, there will be one teacher, one student. That facility we cannot provide in a medical college or a higher setup. So in a periphery setup, skill development center we have to identify. Again, we have to put a criteria where a student can be attached in a small setup, what should be the workload accordingly. Then internship plan. After a student is thoroughly trained, we want to have a practicing time. Usually every training in medical field has an internship. Like for medical graduate, they go 1 year internship training. In nursing and different, the duration of internship varies from program to program. Then there will be assessment plan. We have to also design that after every group of skills, instead of making assessment heavy, what we can do after every course or after every group of skills, there will be an assessment. And we can introduce certificate of proficiency. We should not tell it is pass or fail, because pass or fail does not convey anything in a skill training. He should be proficient to practice that skill. That is what we call certificates of proficiency. This must be introduced, and certificate of proficiency must take care of all the essential skills. Therefore, I am separating compulsory course and optional course. Compulsory course, there has to be a certificate of proficiency. A student must pass. Without that, a student cannot be told that he is skilled. Dealing with a large number, it is very easy to train few persons, maybe 2 persons, 10 persons. But when a nation will need 1 lakh of lab technicians, for example, 2 lakhs of nurses or 5 lakhs of person to draw blood, how we can train large number in a small span of time? What is the principle we should follow? Training method may vary. It may be a medical college, it may be a distance education institution, it may be a virtual lab. Methodology is a different issue. But how to deal in principle a large number? What we can do? Find out critical number that can be trained in a group. For example, in a medical college, I can train 10 students in a group. So that is the critical number, that 10 is required. Find out the critical time period needed for different level of pedagogy. For example, demonstration level, so much time is required. When I tell demonstration, I am, for example, linking the medical college. Then when I am telling pedagogy at a skill development center in a periphery. So a student is being trained in a medical college. Now a student is going to a district hospital, and then he can do the training in a small setup, workplace. Now, when a student is going to a district hospital, I can train some other group in the medical college without wasting time or without any competition with any other student. Similarly, when a student finishes the training in the district hospital, he can rotate. So what I am introducing here, concept of rotating between different institutions, or what I am putting different level of pedagogy. For different level of pedagogy, I am including different institutions. So I can accommodate large number by rotating the students in the same time, while one is doing one level, another is doing another level. So through proper coordination, a larger number of students, more number of groups can be trained. That is what I am telling. Match and mix to plan out number of batches that can be trained in a venue in a calendar year. So instead of only one, for example, a 6-month curriculum, in a year you can train 2 batches. But with this match and mix, maybe within 6 months we can have 2 batches. That means we can train 4 batches. So the number of training can increase. Then identify the number of centers needed to meet the number. For example, one institution can train 100. Let us increase the number of centers. If I put this training in 100 center, then I can train 100 into 100, 10,000 in a year. So I increase the capacity of other centers, and depending upon the number required to train in a country or in a district, I plan my training accordingly. Now, what IGNOU does, in the health skill, what we do, we create theory material, we call it textbooks, that is all, we call it blocks. Instead of module, we call it blocks. We create practical manual, which will guide the student for the procedures. Then checklist manual, as I told you, when one will do the skills, he will checklist that, okay, all the steps are being done in a proper way or not. Then we can create audio video for critical steps. Those are the supplementation to the learning process. Then we introduce logbook. While the student is doing n number of times, when he practices n number of times, he will write n number of times in the logbook. So it will ensure that the student is practicing adequately. Then there will be a program guide that will give a student proper guidance about the course or the curriculum. Then for the trainers, we can have a manual, that is we can call counselor manual, that is a teaching guidance. So you are standardizing the teaching process. Then we can have a administrative manual or the program in charge manual or the center in charge manual, whatever terminology you can use. Those will provide administrative, like that will include exam assessment form, that will include payment to the teachers, that will include enrollment, all the keeping attendance, all the administrative guideline. So like this, for training for a particular skill, we can have this material as a package. Now, what is the academic design? If you see whatever I told, there is a intentional academic design built into it. When I am training in a medical college, that is a group learning taking place. So there is a peer group interaction is there. There can be whatever advantage of group learning, I am taking the advantage of that in a medical college or in a training center. When I am posting them for intensive training in a small setup, it is a one-to-one mentoring. So intensive training is taking place for this skill. Then why am I telling them? Because my topic is today continuing professional education. So, continuing professional education means the student is already working somewhere. So, there is a place where he is working, or we call it workplace, that is on job training. So, he can practice few number of times in the workplace. That is what I am telling, self practice in the workplace. So, these three has to rotate or has to be integrated into the training design. If I am a slow learner, then I have to have additional provision. What is the additional provision? Maybe I will tell, okay, you will repeat the training in the training center so that there will be more number of demonstrations. You will repeat more number of times in the intensive training center, that is one-to-one mentoring, or you will repeat more number of times in your own workplace so that you build up confidence, okay, in my own center I can do it properly. So, these are the additional provision which you have to build for a slow learner. What are the challenges in the paramedical, or I call it allied health training? You see, these are controlled by regulatory body. So, there is a regulatory rigidity. What the regulatory body tells? No, the duration has to be minimum this many, 2 years. Sometimes they tell, no, there will be no diploma, only graduates. All the diploma holders will be replaced by the graduates. Previously, there was a 1 year diploma. There was even 6 month certificate. Nowadays, government has abolished them. So, this rigidity of the duration, rigidity as far as the recognition is concerned, they are rigid, okay, unless these are recognized center, you cannot conduct the training. The curriculum that you are teaching, that has to be also recognized. The training process has to be recognized. Training process, when I tell, for example, they tell, no, you cannot train a paramedical person in distance education. Online training is banned for them. So, what is happening? We have to come out of this regulatory rigidity. There has to be compensation to the student who has already learned in the previous I am telling it integration with the other systems. For example, a student of a Ayurveda system wants to do laboratory technician course in the allopathy system. Now, NEP 2020 allows it. They tell, even for a medical person, they are telling, Haryana government, for example, has done 1 year Ayurvedic training for the MBBS doctors. NEP tells all the allopathic doctors will be trained in the Ayush system. So, this integrating different systems of medicine, that is there in NEP 2020, but there is a challenge as far as the regulatory body is concerned. Similarly, medium of instruction. Now, all the material is available only in English medium. Government wants, no, it has to be in the Hindi medium, in the mother tongue of the state. So, these things has to be created, material has to be created. So, the medium of instruction has to be planned accordingly. Recognition of prior learning. For example, I am a lab technician. I have already worked with a hospital or with a private doctor for 10 years. Now, I am a DMLT. Now, I want to increase my degree from DMLT to BMLT, from diploma to graduation. Can I be considered that, okay, your 10 years training is taking care of this many credit load? That means recognition of my prior learning. Or even I am a quack, for example. I have no formal education, but I know how to draw blood, how to give injection, how to put a IV drip. Will I be given some credit that, okay, my prior learning is recognized? Whereas NEP 2020 tells prior learning should be recognized, but these are the challenges in the paramedical training, how we can accommodate them. Therefore, I conclude that continuing education is a necessity for paramedical or allied health personnel. There is no doubt about it. Knowledge is increasing every 10 years. Sometimes they tell, no, every 5 years. Therefore, as far the knowledge progression is there, we have to have continuing education. But for continuing education, we have to also think that how we can accommodate large number. Large number needs to be trained to meet the health need of the nation. India is such a huge country, we have to train lakhs of people. Therefore, if we have to train large number, if we want continuing education, then we have to have flexibility for the technology. Because without technology, you cannot have large number trained in a short span of time. And when I am telling technology, NEP is already providing it, but the regulatory body have to make their rules flexible, they have to change their rules. That is what I am telling. These has to be accommodated by the regulatory bodies. Quality assurance is possible. We should not hesitate that if we implement NEP 2020, the quality of the paramedical training or the medical education will dilute. No, quality assurance is possible. We can design the program accordingly, and NEP 2020 can be accommodated in our medical or paramedical training. Therefore, we need regulatory authorities to provide that flexibility so that NEP 2020 for continuing paramedical education could be a reality. Now I conclude here. I will welcome questions, so we can have a question and answer in a few minutes. Thank you.